evening. Thank you for attending the regular board meeting on August 22nd. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated on the agenda. At this time, if everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Chambers, if you would call roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Nichols.
Present.
Ms. Pritchard.
Present.
Mr. West.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on June 20th, special meeting July 11th, special meeting July 20th, and a special meeting on August 3rd, 2022.
I'll put a motion to approve those 4 meetings, the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. When you're ready, Mr. Chambers. I apologize. Any comments, discussion regarding these minutes, any of these minutes from the board? Okay, hearing none, roll please.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Would the board wish to make any additions, removals, or modifications to this evening's agenda?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. West. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sable.
First, I'd like to welcome all of our families, our staff, our students especially, and our board, even though I know you've all been hard at work throughout the summer, back to the school year for the 22-23 school year. We did kick off with our teachers and staff last Monday. Here at the high school. We had the opportunity to bring everybody together and celebrate the start of the new school year. And it was really refreshing to be able to do that. And we had a Mr. Rogers theme and talked a lot about togetherness, the importance of collaboration, the importance of being supportive of each other. And then we had a guest speaker, A.J. Giuliani, who is a co-author of a book called Empower, which fits directly within our educational philosophies, and that is about empowering students in their academics and their learning. And one of the messages that I shared with staff is not only do we want to empower our students, but we want to empower our staff, our teachers, our classified staff, our administrators as well, to all be leaders within our district as we guide our students into being and molding them into the best adults that they can be heading into the school year. So we received a lot of positive feedback from our opening day. I personally had several people tell me that it was one of the best ones that they think they've had since they've been here at Medina, which I know I appreciate. I'm sure Tina does as well. I think it probably helps us that we haven't had very many in the last 4 or 5 years because of the pandemic, but I'll take it. It's nice to start the year on such a positive note. We had our students return on Wednesday. Again, the positive atmosphere in the buildings really continued. I did have the opportunity on the first day to visit all of our buildings and get into classrooms. And I posted online, lots of smiles and lots of yawns. And that's pretty typical for what you see on the first day. And that's exactly what I want to see. And it was nice to be able to see both of those. So our students seemed very excited to be back into the buildings. Obviously, when they're first coming back, there's a bit of an adjustment to their new schedules back to school. One thing that I was really impressed about with our staff is the amount of time that they really took in those initial days to get to know their students and to go over things that sound simple, daily procedures, but are so essential to daily operations. And the development of those relationships in starting the school year. And it might sound obvious or trivial, or maybe even to some, well, why aren't you jumping right into the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s? But you think about the time we've spent in the pandemic era the last 3 years and how differently the guidelines that our students have had to follow and how differently the interactions amongst our students have been for so many years. And we have students who came in as kindergartners and now are 3rd or 4th graders, and that's the only experience of school that they've had. So I really appreciated the time that our building personnel took with our students in those initial 3 days to really work with developing those relationships and helping students and staff really make the adjustments that they needed to make heading into the school year to help them have a successful start to the school year. So a lot of excitement with this coming school year. I don't think we could have had a better kickoff last week. It worked out nicely the way we had a short start for the students. I think it gave them time to adjust, and now we're here back into a full week, and before we'll know it, it'll be like we never had summer, right? That's the way it goes. Secondly, I want to mention that we do have a survey that we sent out last week. We wanted to make sure we sent out our OFCC, our facilities, and redistricting survey to our parents and our community once school started. We had initially discussed sending this out earlier in the summer, but it's really important to us that we get as much feedback as we can. So we wanted to make sure that everybody was back in town, so it made sense to wait until school started. I do encourage people to complete that survey because we do want your feedback. We are going to be moving pretty quickly and decisively this school year with the redistricting and facilities plan. It feels like we've been talking about this forever, and it's because it's gotten dragged out due to the pandemic. If we had stuck within our regular timeline, and I talked about this in the spring when I did a presentation to the board, we would actually be nearing or towards the very end of this process and even potentially would have recommended or presented a bond issue to the community. But obviously, the pandemic had other ideas for us. We wanted to make sure that we proceeded with this process in a manner that allowed for the most accurate feedback, not only for us providing to the community, but also the community providing to us as we move forward with the process, because it is some big and important decisions for the future of our school district. The information that we're gathering on the survey is about some of the general plans that we're looking for or looking at for possibilities for the school district. It is not looking at details in terms of the redistricting. The first decision that needs to be made by the school district is a general direction to go with facilities and redistricting. The goal is to make that decision early this fall. Once that decision is made and we know what general plan we're working towards, we can begin talking about the details of what that plan actually looks like. And within each one of those individual general plans, there's several different avenues and options that can be explored to address the redistricting as well as the facility challenges that we are facing within Medina City Schools. And again, we're going to continue to do that as a collaborative effort and continue to get feedback from the community. One thing that is very difficult is we do want to continue to have conversations in regards to the different plans and get feedback. What I don't anticipate happening, though, is I don't anticipate a vote for which plan to go with. And the reason why is because of the complexities behind choosing which plan is best for all students across the entire communities that we serve as Medina City Schools is very complicated. So simply taking a vote on the best plan to go with and how it impacts the financials of the district in the short term as well as the long term isn't as simple as just taking a vote. So it's going to be more of a gathering of information, having important conversations with the community, with the staff, and with the board, and then collaborating with our board in order to make those decisions in regards to the direction to go. So we're looking forward to working with the board to move that process forward. And then the last item that I have to share with our board tonight is there is an OFCC resolution on our board agenda. This resolution was actually presented to the board, or a similar resolution was presented to our board prior to the pandemic, so approximately 3 years ago, and was approved. The purpose of this resolution is to approve our collaboration in working with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission in terms of moving forward with our redistricting and facilities process. The board has to approve our collaborative relationship for us to have any kind of state dollars available to us. Otherwise, if we were to do any facility work, the complete cost of that would be on the district. So we are looking to utilize state funds in order to do that work. And there have been stories in the Gazette that I've seen recently where surrounding districts have actually moved forward in working with the OFCC as well. So we have already been working with the OFCC. That's something that our board has already approved. But because of the time span that has passed due to the pandemic, the OFCC has asked us to represent this resolution to the board, especially with where we're getting in the process now, where we're looking at this coming school year of some decisions being made with the process moving forward and working more closely and intensely with the OFCC heading into this fall and this winter. Any questions for me in regards to the items that I presented this evening? Thank you.
The other day, I saw Mr. Sable, and I smiled and I cried. So. Sorry, I just threw that in there because you said you really enjoy saying that. So went right over everybody's head. I'm sorry. Okay. I just want to touch upon the, see, they're enjoying it out there. I just want to touch upon the summary for June, since it's been, gosh, almost 2 weeks since I left June. It's through July. We finished up July, but I just got June done here about 3 weeks ago. Revenues ended the fiscal year at $1.4 million above the forecasted funds. This is due to unanticipated collections on Medicare settlement and larger real and personal property settlements. Expenditures ended the fiscal year 3.9 million below expectations. Capital outlay and transfers and advances were far below the forecast numbers, and personnel and benefits were also below anticipation numbers. We'll go to any questions on June, first of all. Okay, I just want to remind the board, monies that we get in from property taxes, they come in at a high in January, February, and then we drop down. June, July, we're down here. End of July, August, we climb again, and then by December and early January, we're down again. And that's the cyclical nature of property taxes itself. It's when you guys pay your property taxes, we get the collections, and we have to live on those collections throughout the 6 months, and then you pay your property taxes again, and we get collections. If we put a levy on, at the start of the levy, we're seeing the highs of the levy itself, and then we're using that levy down as we go along. Now we've been with the same levy for 10 years, so we've been traveling down that road of the high that we had. I believe we were at, when you came here, Aaron, it was about $58 million in balance at the end of the fiscal year. Now we're down to around, I believe it's around $36 million. So we're riding that down. This past year was a good year for us, per se, because the last levy that we produced, any new construction adds on a little bit for the district as a whole. But the expenditures were lower than anticipated, so it keeps us on a fairly level playing field. But the taxes itself are the driving factor behind where the school district stands. Any questions on that? Okay, let's get to July, because we're here. It's almost the end of August. We're here in July. The district bank balance increased to 19.27 million to 86.97 million. Now that $86 million is the district as a whole. It's not just the forecasted funds. So that includes any of your title monies, it includes any of your fees and any of your athletic monies. So it includes the entire district as a whole. This is 1.9 million below last year at this time. The 5-year forecasted revenues were above last July by $350,000. All revenue sources except real property taxes account for this increase. Real property taxes were actually lower than last year at this time. The 5-year forecasted expenditures were below last July by $6,015. So we're running about where we were. Purchase services, supplies, and capital account for this decrease. The sales tax fund balance increased by to $3.739 million. The district received their last of last year's monies, $932,000 from the county in sales tax collections, and we spent approximately $402,000 with the majority of expenditures going to roofing and paving. The rec center capital fund balance increased to $191,000. The district spent $6,700 on parking and windows, and the district received $29,000 from the city as reimbursement for prior month's expenditures. The district received approximately $50,000 in investment income for July. The total collected this current fiscal year is approximately $23,000 above last year at this time. Mr. Ross, you like that? We'll hope that it continues. The district has a general true days cash estimated to be 250 days. This is up from June by 49 days because, again, we hit that cyclical climb with the property taxes, and it's below last year by 18.46 days. And the last time the operating levy for the school was approved by taxpayers was in November of 2013. With collections beginning in January of 2014. The current forecast shows the district will surpass 10 years without seeking new operating levy from the taxpayers, as it projects new monies beginning in 24-25 with a possible levy. This has been a major objective of the administration and the Board of Education, and we're looking forward to the next year. Any questions? Okay, our auditors instructed, our investment advisor instructed me that Ohio law states that if we have collections on commercial paper or banker's acceptance, we have to notify the board of these collections at least once a year. Well, we don't have any collections coming in, but we do have commercial paper out there. We have three articles out there, one to the Royal Bank for $470,000, one to TD USA for $1,050,000, and one to Toyota Motor Credit for $800,000. So no money's coming in. We did put monies out there for the commercial paper itself. We anticipate monies coming in 23 and the end of 22 here. And now, our auditors did tell us last year that we do have to report out also any monies we receive from our credit cards as far as rebates or refunds or anything that we get as a incentive for using the credit card. The district collected $13,252.14 last year for using the credit card as credit card rebates. And that's all I got to tell you about it. I mean, there's nothing that they say we have to tell other than have to inform the board. Questions about that?
I do, Mr. Chambers. Regarding those rebates, does that just go back into the general fund then?
Yes, it definitely does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think Mr. Chambers is done. Okay, thank you very much. Move on to board communications. I'd like to go around the horn, if you like.
Sure. I'd just like to thank the entire staff for all their hard work, getting the school year off to a great start. And to the PTOs and all the buildings for all their hard work, and to the booster clubs, athletics, band, choir. They do a lot for our students. Friday night, we had a great crowd Friday night, and I hope that crowd continues to follow the Bees as they go away this week. And then this Sunday, August 28th, from 1 to 5 at Ray Mellett Park is a West Side Community Fun Day, and I just hope people come out. It's CAP is the one sponsoring it. I think it'll just be a fun time. So it's not run by the school, but I just wanted everyone to know about it. Thank you.
All right, echoing kind of what Jean had said there, it's awesome to have our students and staff back in the building. We have the schools up and running, and sports are going full throttle, like Jean mentioned. We had a game on Friday, so that's always good, and I can, if I don't attend, I can always hear it from my house. Marching band and all, whether my dogs like the marching band or not. So it was awesome to have an opportunity to actually take part in the New Year activities this year and even meet some of the new hires within the district. And I know that this year is going to be the best year yet that we've had at Medina. I wanted to take another minute and just address something a little bit more on a somber note, but I wanted to talk about Mr. Sable had actually sent out a email to the district about us having a student within the district that passed unexpectedly over the weekend. And I just wanted to say, everybody, make sure that you hold on to your loved ones and you make sure that they know that they are loved. The district, we're lucky to be able to have, as the district, the ability to provide services to those that are maybe having a hard time, to talk with somebody and just try and help make sense of it all. And I think that's a really great thing that we're able to offer. And life is not only short, but it's also unexpected, and I think this is a clear indicator of that. So finally, I'll leave everyone with, on my board communication, is take care, stay safe, and look out for not only your friends and family, but yourself also.
Yes, thank you. Just a Couple things. One, I get to hear or at least one of the xylophone players from the marching band practicing in his basement next to my house every day, so I do hear them even though I'm on the other side of town. But it's fun to hear, and I'm looking forward to attending a couple football games and seeing the football team and the marching band. But, excuse me, I got to attend the opening day. Very much enjoyed Mr. Sable's rendition of Mr. Rogers. I always liked Mr. Rogers. He's a great guy. But it was nice to see a lot of excitement there. I was very happy to hear Mr. Giuliani's presentation. It was, I think, very timely, and I think it's a great thing moving forward, and hopefully we get to apply a lot of that stuff and continue to push that in the district. Embrace it. I found him very engaging and very funny. A little bit, didn't know what to expect, but I enjoyed his personal stories about his children the best. I think anybody with children can relate at some point or another. Also, I wanted to thank Dr. Kwolek for taking me down to the home ec room, the new cooking room. It's kind of a little bit dear to my heart because my mother was a longtime home ec teacher in the district I grew up in. Although I never took it in school, I got it at home every day. So I've learned those skills, and I hope moving forward, we can add more stuff, more classes in the district that are hands-on, the home ec, sewing, whatever that is. Those seem to be very, very, she said that there was 300 students in it, and the class was full, and they had to turn people away. So hopefully we can add a lot more moving forward, or slowly add those back. So that was good. And then a little bit on a personal note, I took my son to OSU this weekend and dropped him off at Mack Hall. He's going to be studying engineering in the fall, but as a parent dropping your child off, you're kind of worried about him. But I very rapidly discovered I wasn't. He's rooming with 3 other boys from Medina, Andrew, Will, and Alex. They're all studying engineering, and those 3 guys, I can tell you after the weekend and watching them get their room set up and everything, we are really lucky here in this district. They are very well prepared for what awaits them. And all of the other seniors that we just graduated, or the ones that I know personally, I know are also very, very well prepared for whatever comes next for them, be it the military or college or whatever. So I think we should be very proud, and that goes to the teachers and the administration and the staff here in the district. So it was a little sad. It was my last one, but it was nice to see that they're very well prepared and whatnot. So that's it. Thank you. No, thank you. I just wanted to say our next facilities committee is the 1st of September, and we'll be discussing more of our redistricting and facilities, so looking forward to that. And then the other thing is, I'll just echo what Gene said about the staff. Staff was working hard all summer, negotiating contracts, community events. I know Amy and her staff put together the picnic at Mallard Park, and she's always at the farmers market trying to hand out information to the community. So I appreciate that, and all your hard work from the top all the way down to the lowest ranking person, whoever that is, getting ready over the summer to have a great start to the school year. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, welcome back. I know for a lot of parents, it seems like Wednesday is the first day of school, but as everyone here knows, that everyone's working year-round. Hopefully taking a vacation at some point in time, but I know that Mr. Shields and his staff and the administrators were busy interviewing and hiring all summer long, and we got to see the benefits of that at the new hire breakfast a week ago now, I think it was, which was pretty exciting to meet everyone that's joining our district. It's exciting to be back to our first normal school year. I know it's been a long time coming, and I know the kids are excited, parents, everyone is excited to get back into things. Along with thanking our administrators for all the hard work they've done this summer, over the summer, we've also had a lot of projects done, facilities projects. Everyone has probably seen the paving that's been done and roofing projects, and even some things probably inside the buildings that no one has noticed until they're in there. So we appreciate all the hard work that's been going on in those groups getting that work done. In terms of committees, the curriculum committee did not meet this past, well, for the month of August, but the members were invited to the opening day ceremony. The board and the curriculum committee were part of the book study that was done this summer with the Empower book that Mr. Giuliani co-wrote with Mr. Spencer. And I just recently finished that book. It's a great read. I recommend if anyone can get their hands on a copy to please read that. And I'm pretty sure there's also an online ebook available, and possibly even an audiobook for those who are more inclined to listen to their books. But there's some great messages in there. It's exciting to start our school year off with that theme of empower. And one thing towards the end of the book that caught my attention, I think we should all take with us, is he talks about the school year being a journey. And it's not just a journey to the end of the school year, but a journey to what can lead beyond finishing the school year. And I think that's good to kind of flip your lens sometimes and think of things from another perspective. I think that's a good way to look at things. The policy committee has not met over the summer, but we plan to meet in a week for September. There have been no new updates, but we expect to have a bunch of new policies we need to go through at the next meeting. And the Career Center also meets monthly. I serve on that, and we will meet tomorrow night. And I wanted the community to know that those are also public meetings that anyone can attend, and their agenda is on board. They use board docs just like we do, and their agenda is out there for everyone to take a look at on their website. And last but not least, I want to wish everyone a great school year, and to reiterate what Mr. Sable said about the survey. If you go to the Medina Bees website, as soon as you click on that, there's a big square that pops up that says click here for survey, and you click right in there and it'll take you directly to the survey. So I want everyone to remember to complete that. And thank you, Mrs. Busby, for making it that easy for all of us. Thank you. Okay, we are at the time in our agenda for public participation. I don't believe anyone signed in, but it looks like we do have some guests in the back if they would be interested in speaking. Okay, if not, I will go ahead and waive the reading of the public participation rules. And we'll move on to our action items. Mr. Chambers, you are up with yours.
Yes, if it pleases the board, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the June 22 and July 22 treasurers' reports. Number 2, fund-to-fund transfers. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfers. We have monies coming out of the high school principal fund account we created a local grants account because the high school is getting local grants on a yearly basis, and moving it out into a separate fund other than the principal's fund only made sense for us. And then we also have monies going to the Hope Squad. These were monies that were being used by a assistant who is now over at Claggett, and she felt that the Hope Squad could use these monies best at the high school. And then since the bowling club is no longer a club, we're moving the monies over into the athletics. And item number 3, temporary appropriations. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the temporary appropriations for the 22-23 school year. Looking at this, I believe that I added the title grants and added a few other monies to what was already approved. We will be getting the board the final appropriations. I should call them I'll call them the final appropriations. We'll be getting the board the final appropriations here with the September board meeting, and these should have all monies in that the board will see until we get additional monies coming in, possibly from title or movements from title. And then you also have local grants. You have monies coming in from the 018 funds that when fundraisers and that are taken in, monies are taken in. So you'll see those move as the year goes on.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's action items.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any comments or questions from the board? Mr. Chambers, I have a question. On the temporary appropriations, there are some ESSER funds. I'm assuming those are the funds that we knew we were getting just that now that we have them? Or are those new monies that we were not expecting?
Those monies, the 507 ESSER, those are monies from the past year. That's carryover itself. We did receive another ESSER grant here this year. Can't remember the amount of monies that are available, but we have to apply for that. So, and then when we do a final expenditure report in September, you'll see monies carrying over from last year that we are able to spend this year. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Chambers, roll, please.
Mr. Ross? Aye. Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First item tonight is donations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations. We have several donations to Medina City Schools. Many of those include resources for our buildings, especially at the elementary level, for the start of the school year, including many reading books. I'd also like to point out to the donation to our Medina High School girls basketball program from HMT Dermatology Associates to help them get some warm-up gear come wintertime for the opening of their season. And thank you for their support of our girls basketball program. Also, I'd like to point out that our Medina Athletic Boosters are receiving a donation from the class of 2022. The reason why this is occurring is because when our senior classes graduate, they sometimes leave a little bit of money behind in their accounts. So the class officers take a vote and decide how to utilize those funds. And they made the decision to donate those funds to support the athletic boosters in their efforts with scholarships as well as the purchasing of other athletic supplies to support the programs. Number 2 is a resolution for the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution of intent for Medina City School District to participate in the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission Expedited Local Partnership Program. Number 3, resolution for membership to Meta Purchasing Cooperative. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Medina City School District membership in the Meta Purchasing Cooperative. I just reversed those there. The Meta Purchasing Cooperative is for our food services program. This has been recommended in the past. It's to be able to work with other school districts to do joint purchasing to get lower prices. Number 4 is a service agreement with PSI. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the amendment to the service agreement between St. Francis School and PSI affiliates to correct the hours per year for LD tutor remedial teacher from $4.59 to $4.95 for an increase of $2,104.56 for the 22-23 school year. These are pass-through funds. We are the fiscal agents for these funds for St. Francis. So these are not funds that impact our school district. Number 5, agreements for students placed at the Evolve Academy. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreements that students placed at the Evolve Academy will provide educational services by the Medina City Schools for the following school districts. And we have Brunswick, Buckeye, Highland, of course ourselves, and Wadsworth. Reason why we're listed on here as well is Evolve definitely is Medina City Schools. but they are self-sufficient, self-funding, which means they operate on their own budget, pay for their own staffing, as well as pay for their own costs within the buildings. Buildings or other districts pay tuition for students to attend, including us. So if we have a Medina City School student that attends, we provide the tuition so that the Evolve Academy can have the appropriate funding in order to be able to operate. So yearly, districts that have students placed there, we make this recommendation. The board may see this every once in a while throughout the year if districts are added or students are added to the program, which does occasionally happen. As you see here, these are all Medina County districts, and historically, we have had students from Summit County as well as Cuyahoga County in the past. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see another district here or two in the future. Number 6, Memorandum of Understanding, students placed at the Medina County Juvenile Detention Center. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the memorandums of understanding that students placed at the Medina County Juvenile Detention Center will be provided educational services by the Medina City Schools for the following districts. And it's Black River, Brunswick, Buckeye, Cloverleaf, Highland, Medina, and Wadsworth. Again, we are the fiscal agents for the educational services at the Juvenile Detention Center. Juvenile Detention Center is required to provide educational services for students that are in attendance in their programming. We, Medina City Schools, provide those services, so the teachers at the Juvenile Detention Center are Medina City School paid teachers. We are reimbursed by other school districts for the costs of those services throughout the course of the school year. So annually, this agreement is presented to the board for approval in order for reimbursement of those costs. Number 7, Memorandum of Understanding with Baldwin Wallace University. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Memorandum of Understanding between the Medina City School District and Baldwin Wallace University School of Education for a partnership for clinical and field experience placement for teacher candidates. There couldn't be a time that this is more important than ever. If you haven't heard, which it has been in the media, there is a shortage in the field of education. The partnerships that we develop with local universities is more important now than ever in getting young prospective teachers and future educators into our district, and us taking a leadership role in helping to prepare our future teachers and our future administrators in this profession. Number 8 is a stipend payment. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payment for Tyler Skidmore in the amount of $300 for serving as a cooperating teacher for an Ohio University student during the spring of 2022 semester. And number 9 is personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion of all required paperwork per our Department of Human Resources. We are still finalizing our hiring process. As you can see here, we have several recommendations, including school psychologists. As you know, because you just approved this evening 4 special board meetings that we had for the purposes of personnel. Hiring has been a challenge. I know that's a challenge really across many industries, if not all industries. It has been a particular challenge in education. We've talked in the past about bus drivers. For us, bus drivers continue to be a challenge, as do classroom aides, substitutes, teachers. So it is an ongoing process for us to find the best candidates to come in and work with our students. We do have a thorough process to ensure that we are bringing the best people in to work here at Medina City Schools, because that's what our students and our families expect and deserve. In addition to that, we have our CDC recommendations on this board agenda. Our CDCs are our curriculum development coordinators. What curriculum development coordinators are is they are our teacher leaders across the district. So we have curriculum development coordinators, teacher leaders at every single one of our buildings. And they work in leadership roles with our building principals as well as with our Department of Instruction to help guide, develop curriculum. They're responsible for leadership roles in the implementation of new curriculum and a lot of the discussions we have with empowering students, like we talked about today, as well as with the SOAR programming, Portrait of a Graduate, Portrait of a Bee, and anything that has to do with curriculum, instruction, data, and really anything leadership within the building. So I'm very appreciative of the role that they play. It's important to me as a district leader that we have people in leadership capacity across the district in all roles, because they are the educator specialists, the ones doing it day in and day out in the trenches. So what they have to say, what they do, and what they're leading is vital. Any questions in regards to any of tonight's recommendations on the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Sable. Can I get a motion for the approval of the items?
I'll make a motion to approve H1 through H9.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
In that agenda meeting, we talked about the baseball coach.
Yep. I anticipate that we will be making a recommendation for our baseball program probably in our September meeting. We want to make sure that we're following the timelines within our current negotiated agreement with MCTA.
Any other questions or comments from the board regarding these action items? Okay, hearing none, roll please.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there was an executive session on the agenda, but we are going to waive that as it is no longer needed and move on to action item J1.
Action item J1, Medina City Teachers Association. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve a 3-year agreement with the Medina City Teachers Association, MCTA, effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. Several things I would like to point out here in terms of an increase. We're looking at a 3% this year, 2% the following year, and a 2.75% increase for our teaching staff the third year of this agreement. I do want to thank our administrators and our teachers for their collaboration throughout this process. We do not take this process lightly. It did start last spring and carried out not only through the spring but throughout the course of the summer. Obviously, finances and healthcare are a big part of the conversation, but it goes way beyond just finances and healthcare. There's a lot of discussion about what we're doing in the district academically, how we're working collaboratively, administratively, as well as the staff, what's best for our staff as well as what's best for our students. We work together through various concerns. We don't use a sitting across the table approach. We use a collaborative approach where we problem solve together, which means as we both bring concerns to the table, we work together to solve those concerns, which means our goal is to work together to meet middle ground to make Medina City Schools the best place it can be for our teachers, our staff, and our students as well. So we're continuing to operate under common goals as we're moving through this process. I really feel like we had another very positive process, and that doesn't mean that there weren't very difficult conversations throughout that process, but those are difficult conversations that are essential, and there are what are going to continue to ensure that we're successful. Because if we're not having and we're not able to have those difficult conversations, then there's a disconnect and a lack of trust within our district. And fortunately, those are things that we have in place because we are having those conversations. And again, I really want to thank MCTA for working with us throughout this process. And I'm hopeful that the board is able to approve this recommendation for this evening. We will have negotiations coming up again this school year, and that will be working with OPSI, our classified staff, which is our bus drivers, our aides, our cafeteria workers. So that'll be our next group.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. Will someone please make a motion for this action item?
I'll make a motion to approve action item J1 for the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any questions or comments from the board?
I do have some comments. I want to thank both negotiations teams for their hard work on the contract. Having been involved in negotiations for MCTA, it is tedious, but we all must keep in mind that we all need to do what is in the best interests of kids. Having said that, I do have a major concern about planning time at the high school. The high school staff has over 5,000 more minutes than any other level, which equates to 3 extra weeks of planning time. This is not what is best for our students. We have 500 students leaving early and study halls of 200. Changing the length of class periods would help eliminate some of these issues. Retaining the schedule makes it harder to implement our portrait of the graduate and keep their timeline established. Last, there is a huge inequity between high school, middle school, and elementary. Even giving the K through 5 teachers 3 extra days to plan in no way equalizes the playing field. The association has agreed to a committee to study this, and I hope they can come with a solution to solve the issue, helping kids and all staff. And last, I'd like to say we all appreciate teachers and the extraordinary sacrifice they made during the pandemic, but we need to look seriously at better utilizing the time during the school day for students. While I don't necessarily agree with this excess planning time, I would reluctantly agree to go along with the contract.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mr. Sable, your negotiating team, for working on this. Not, like you said, you started in the spring, so you've been working on it all summer. You, Jim, Chris. And I also want to thank the MCTA team, Dave Hammond and his crew, his negotiating team, for working with you all, as you said, collaboratively, and working through a lot of issues, not necessarily financial, and other issues, like what Gene was talking about. So I appreciate all the hard work, and I think it's a fair contract, and I'm looking forward to working with the staff with this new contract. Thank you.
Mr. Ross kind of said what I was thinking, what I planned to say. Just thank you to the administrative team and to MCTA's team for working collaboratively together to reach an agreement so we can all do what's best for kids. Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, Mr. Chambers, will you call roll, please?
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next item I have to present is revised 22-23 district calendar. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revisions to the 22-23 district calendar to add 3 elementary teacher workdays. These elementary workdays are per the new teacher contract to provide more instructional preparation time for our elementary teachers with 21st century instruction throughout the course of the school year. Pending or assuming approval by the board, we will be providing a communication to our parents regarding this adjustment to the calendar so that we can ensure there's plenty of advance notice for our parents. I would also like to point out that we will be looking at adjustments to some of our future calendars in terms of professional development. That is the other thing that we worked with our teachers on, is it's vitally important to us to make sure we have plenty of time to work with our teachers, to make sure we're as up to date as possible on all of the skills and instructional strategies that we all need to make sure we're providing the best services for our students. And we were able to work through some future calendars in order to provide some of those times, but that does not impact this current school year. That'll be for future years.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar as revised.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Any questions or comments for Mr. Sable?
No, just one question, Mr. Sable. So just to be clear, it doesn't affect the students' number of hours, the attendance, because we're well above that, right?
It will decrease the students' hours of attendance. They are still well above what they're required to be in school for during the school year.
Thank you. No other questions? Mr. Chambers, call roll, please.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting of action items. I would like someone to make a motion to consider the employment dismissal, discipline, or compensation of a public employee or official, and to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second that one.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, I would like to note we will not be taking any action when we return from executive session. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and it's still light out for a little bit, so you can enjoy your evening. Thank you.